Hello, hello, hello.
Hey.
Oh, are we sharing my screen? It's okay. I had
What were you
I
watching
wanted to
there?
show that tweet, so it's totally okay. If you didn't see my tweet, I highly recommend it for this show today. I was educating Brent just earlier on the background of this GIF or GIF, and if you haven't seen the 1984 Crystal Light Fitness Invitational, I highly recommend you Google search that guy because it's incredible. So
Yeah. So I watched the intro already, and holy crap! Like, people had a lot of energy back then. That Crystal Light must be some good stuff.
whatever they put in Crystal Light back then, it is not in it today.
I bet it was
So
Crystal something. Not sure if it was actually Crystal Light.
100%, that's a fact. Oh man, that was awesome. I'm so glad we started the show with that front and center. Totally unintentional.
Hey, look who we have. We have Murali. He's back on YouTube today. So we're starting to recognize some new regulars. That's awesome. And of course, FA, good to
Yes,
see you.
from the
Here we
Copilot team.
go. Exactly. So I know we're going to talk about Copilot today. So it's awesome to have someone from the Copilot team, here because, like you can help answer questions and tell us what's coming and all kinds of good stuff. Of course, Cube Jerome. Welcome back, Cube Jerome. Here we go. Here we go.
Every
Love that
time.
song. I feel like I can't change the song now, it's just become part of our identity. So, yeah.
Oh wow.
Oh,
Nice
yeah.
words.
Yeah. Thank you, Ignacio. Guys, you're amazing. Thanks for all the great content here. We're happy to do it. This is fun stuff. And, people always think containers and their container journey, and it's all complicated and fraught with, tons of big decisions and stuff like that. And in reality, like it's not super hard. Just keep it simple. Just don't pre-optimize. Keep it simple. Just solve problems when they finally present themselves, and don't try and think too far ahead and build yourself into a corner. So we can talk containers, like every day. In fact, that's what we do here. We talk containers every day.
Yeah, we can and we do. I just want to take
Because
that last 30 seconds of you talking and clip it, and just that needs to be constantly replayed. We should play at the start of the show every day,
yeah,
because it's the truth is, I think as people who are building, in technology, whether you're building, a platform for your developers, or you're a developer just trying to get your damn container, your code deployed, keep it
yeah,
simple. Like we tend to overcomplicate things, and we shouldn't. We should really focus on the problem at hand, right? Solve your problems with the tools that are going to make it easiest for you to solve those problems.
exactly. Love that. So looks like Major Gamer Geek, good afternoon. So must be somewhere east of where I am. I guess it's afternoon here too. It's like 4 minutes afternoon, but
Yeah.
still. So yeah, you're okay. You could be anywhere. Never mind. That
No,
was a
not Hawaii.
terrible.
Is it
I
Hawaii
guess
earlier?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So not you're not west of me. You're east of me, or at least in the same time zone I am. How about where are you, Major Gamer Geek? That
There
would
we
have been
go.
a much better way to approach this problem. And here we go. Yeah, Jay for good evening. So I'm guessing maybe Europe somewhere. Welcome to the show, Cube Jerome. Yeah, except Friday. We got to have one day a week where we can do like paperwork and all of the chores that stack up. I think I'm behind on like a training video for how to work at Amazon, that my boss
Oh, is
is
that
getting
true?
emailed. Yeah, my boss is getting emailed about it, so I have that scheduled for Friday.
Just send them here. Just send them here. We'll find a way figure it out.
Nice. Foobar serverless, welcome, even though you're Foobar serverless. Good evening. And Major Gamer Geek says West Coast. So
Okay.
shout out. Hope you're doing well on the West Coast. That's where I am right now. That's where Adam is all the time. So he's a lucky guy. I'm just getting to experience it, just briefly, and it's amazing.
I have to disagree, Foobar serverless. I would say we're not the competition. We work in harmony. And
Exactly.
it's such a common thing where it's like one or the other. No, like you can use the right tool for the job.
If anyone ever tells you that you have to do all of one thing, then you should just walk away. Like this isn't all containers, and it's not all serverless, and it's not all any one technology. So yeah, there's a right tool for every job, and it's not always going to be the same tool. So,
but by the way, I love Fargate. I prefer Fargate.
Of course.
Like, I don't want to manage EC2. So
of course. Yeah. And hey, Foobar agrees. Can't agree more. And yeah, I mean, serverless containers, that's Fargate, but even that is not always the right choice. So there are times when it's better if you pick an EC2 instance. So yeah, I mean, we'd like for those times to be fewer and further between, but absolutely.
Yeah, there is a Rogo.js that is, it really is like a Vegas buffet of delicious tools. I mean, we really do have quite the assortment. I love that.
Yeah, you can find like any little variation of whatever tooling you're looking for at AWS, and it's really awesome. I love that, and it at times can feel overwhelming, like especially when it comes time to pick a database. Good grief, how do you decide what database to pick and where to host stuff, and then how to how to size it, and if you have to size it, and like all of these choices, and it's amazing. So it's really cool to have all of those options at your disposal.
Yes, and another good afternoon. So on that note, I think we're talking about ease of use. We're talking about choosing the right tool for the job. We're talking about serverless, Fargate. I just feel like it's a natural segue into what we're going to do today. So we've talked about Copilot a few times on the show, and Brent, back in the days, like a month ago or 2 months ago, it feels like it was just yesterday. We did an unboxing on Copilot, and there was, we had so much confidence in what was ahead. Just based off the unboxing. And now we're at that point where it's pretty feature rich. And
yeah, there've been a few releases, and you're right. I mean, like we're kind of laughing at it as if it's an exaggeration, but no, it really was just a few weeks ago that this thing was released, and it really kind of changed everything for how you might deploy containers to ECS on Fargate. And it's awesome. And here we are only a few weeks later, and there have been a bunch of releases, a bunch of features added, and this thing is coming right along, and it's amazing. So it's a good time to let's stop and take a second look at it, or even maybe a third look at it, and let's see what's new now, what can it do, and how's it working. So awesome.
And so with that, we've actually added Copilot to the ECS workshop. So if you're familiar with our workshops, we have the ECS workshop, EKS workshop. Great way to get hands-on and just get experience with the orchestrator, deploying to the orchestrator, and so on. So even our workshop has evolved, and so today, or most likely by end of day or tomorrow, we'll have merged the Copilot addition to the workshop, but we're going to run through that today. And the thing you're going to see here, which is no joke, is it's just a lot easier. Like I had to, when I was adding the material to the workshop, I had to do a lot more writing on explaining all the things that are happening because Copilot does so much for you that really, as a developer, as an operator, someone that manages operations, you're an SRE, it simplifies things a whole lot for your team. So you're going to see that as we walk through this, and I'm excited to just do a lot of talking today.
Yeah, totally. And let's just recap just real quick for those that aren't familiar with Copilot, what it is. It's basically our V2 of the ECS CLI. So when it comes to managing your microservices on ECS, you have a lot of options. You can do things with CloudFormation. You can write just thousands of lines of CloudFormation if you want to, and have complete control over every little aspect of what it is you're building. Or you can use the CDK. And the CDK gives you a lot of customizability, but then with a lot of sort of pre-baked opinion on how things should be. But then there's going to be people who just don't even want to think about that. Like, I don't even, just tell me what to do. Give me the right answers. And, so bring your opinion, fully to the table, and let me just deploy my container following the better practices that have been learned over the years. And that's what Copilot does. So instead of having to write any CloudFormation or even write any CDK, you can sit here and deploy your container into a cluster that gets automatically built and automatically managed and automatically, everything. Like it's literally like it can manage your monitoring, and it can manage your scalability and stuff like that. So it's an amazing little CLI, and it gives you a developer experience all from the command line, so you can even do operational things after the fact, right from the command line.
Yes, and Alex Smasha, welcome back. And I think the question is it possible to export CloudFormation with this? And the answer is yes, and I will show you as we deploy. So again, what's nice is you're using this tool. Let's say somehow you grow out of the Copilot CLI in some way. Obviously, I think the intent is to keep you there and to make your life as easy as possible. But something happens and you want to do something on your own. You want to be super customized in the way you build things. Export your CloudFormation, and there you go. Now just build on that. So They make it very easy for you to, if you need to branch out, you can.
Yeah, totally. Hey, Worry21, welcome back.
Hey.
It's been a while. Good to see you again. So yeah, and on top of that, though, I think what's even cooler about Copilot is it does afford the possibility of introducing custom CloudFormation. So those times when you're thinking Copilot might not be able to do what I want to do, and so I have to completely exit it and use something different. Well, that's when you can consider, no, in fact, maybe I could just import my own custom CloudFormation, and for that one little aspect of it, write CloudFormation for just that. And I think that's really cool.
Yep, exactly. And so, yeah, Alex Smasha found it at Copilot Service Package. We will show you in a little bit, but we will. So what's different about the workshop now, Brent, is
tell me. I haven't seen it.
We're going to deploy the front end service, and it's not going to work as we expect. Okay. So we're going to introduce some drama, and we're going to fix it in real time. So I don't want to tease anymore. We're just going to do it. So so it looks like there's also another question about deploying to an existing VPC. So yes, I believe we just released functionality to deploy to an existing VPC. We have FA in the chat, so hopefully FA can give a for sure answer on that. But I believe we did just release that functionality.
Yeah, that would be a good one to find out more about, because I can't remember. I remember it being talked about. I just don't remember what the status of it was, because as it turns out, we always build a new VPC. So yeah, that's one thing I haven't had to run into.
Yep. So, okay. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, awesome. And then, yeah, he says it'll ask if you want to use an existing VPC.
Perfect. Hey, Dave. Dave's here as well. So we really have the whole team here. And
That's nice.
I'll tell
Thanks,
you,
guys. By the way, this team is the best.
my favorite team.
Yeah, when we get on here and do a show about it, we sometimes we'll remember to tell them. But did you tell them today? Because I forgot to.
I did.
Oh, okay, good. Because I'm like, and here they are anyway. So this is awesome.
No, let's just assume they always watch the show and they don't need to know if we're talking about Copilot. But no,
Totally.
I did tell them.
And Alex Smash is asking, what chat is that? YouTube? And we're streaming to two different Twitches, twitch.tv/AWS and twitch.tv/AWS containers. And the containers one is our own custom channel. So we're just thinking it in the future. If you want to push notification about just our show, you can subscribe to that channel. And then, yes, we also stream to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/containers from the couch.
Yes. All right. So I just want to get started here. See. Okay. Oh,
Hey.
You have Nathan Peck on AWS containers.
Nice. Welcome, Nathan. Good to see you.
Yeah, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay. No, we have a great audience today. Okay. So typically in the ECS workshop, we have a stage where we build the platform. And in this stage, we build the VPC, we build all of the components, VPC, subnets, routing, NAT gateways, all these different things to deploy our services onto. Well, with the Copilot, and frankly, with CDK, it's the same as well. I didn't necessarily have to do this, but with Copilot, we don't need to build a platform separately. Okay, and I'm going to explain why in just a moment once we start with our front end app. So, as I mentioned, we're going to be deploying a 3-tier. I want to go all the way back here. It's going to be a 3-tier polyglot microservices application. So our front end Ruby on Rails, back end Node.js, 2 different languages with our back end services, and then we have a load balancer to allow the ingress from the internet into our web application. So generally, to do this, right, you have to think about your networking. You have to think about an ECS cluster, right? Cluster, really, there's not a lot to think about there. But you have to deploy your namespace, think about service discovery, security groups. There's just quite a bit. IAM roles, policies, all these things that you have to think about when deploying on your own without using something like the CDK or Copilot. But in this instance, let's just get started and let's see how the Copilot experience works. So I did a lot of the prerequisites just to save time, but they are detailed in the workshop. So the first thing we're going to do is we have our front end. I'm going to start with our front end, and I'm going to then work our way backwards into our back end services. So all I have to do to get started with Copilot is obviously install it. But once I install it, I simply run Copilot init. And it's going to give me an interactive walkthrough. It's going to ask me some questions related to my application to determine how to build and deploy. Now, with Copilot, there's a couple things I want to talk about. One is some of the terminology. So we have an application in Copilot. Oh, it says it here. So think of an application in Copilot as a collection of services, because we're going to also deploy a service. We have 3 services, our front end and our 2 back ends. Those are services. So they all live underneath the application. Now, within our application, of course, we're going to deploy to multiple environments, right? You're not just going to be testing and doing everything in one environment and hoping for the best. You're going to have a test environment, potentially a staging environment, and then a production environment. So we'll look at that in a little bit. So I'm going to start with naming my application because I don't have an application right now. This is all brand new. So I'm going to name it ECS Workshop. And now that we've named our application, we're going to start with deploying our first service. So I have 2 options. I can deploy a load balanced web service, which is going to ensure that there's a load balancer. The routes are there. So meaning I have a load balancer, a target group, a listener, all the things to ensure that I'm working as expected from a front end perspective. I can also create a back end service. We'll do that in a moment, but for now, we're going to deploy the load balanced web service, and we're going to name it ECS demo, and we're going to call it front end. This is where it gets really cool. So it's just asking me where my Docker file is, because as this builds, what's going to happen is when I deploy my application, Brent, remember the old days? I love it. The old days, like it was
Right.
But you used to have some sort of script, or you have a build sh, a deploy sh, and your build sh, you run Docker build, pass your arguments, you tag your image, you do all the things that you have to do, but you had to write something to do that. Well, Copilot does all that for me. So Copilot takes my Docker file, it's going to build a Docker image, but it also is going to create the registry in ECR, Elastic Container Registry. It's going to ensure that when I create my environment, that my ECS cluster can actually talk to ECR and pull that image down.
Yeah.
And it's going to take some, for example, like health checks and port. It's going to read my Docker file and actually transport those into the service manifest. The service manifest is the definition of how we deploy our service.
I was going to say that I was thinking, there's a lot of really useful information inside the Docker file, and expose and your port is one of them. That's useful from a Docker container setup perspective. So why not just go ahead and read it directly out of that file and use it? So it's what you would do as a human, right? As a human, you'd be like, okay, what port does this service listen on? And you'd find that information in your Docker file. Otherwise, you're having to dig into the application to find it. And every language, every application is going to give you that information in a slightly different way. So the fact that there's kind of a standard way of doing that in the Docker file is super handy, and Copilot takes advantage of that.
Yep. And it will create a manifest file for you. So you don't even have to, you don't have to go somewhere and copy and paste a manifest and put it in here. It does that for you. So, which you can see here in my output, full disclosure, I ran through this already. So obviously I have a manifest file. I didn't delete it. So it recognized I have it, so it didn't write to it.
Totally. So Con Paul asks, ECR with KMS encryption?
Thursday.
Okay.
Oh, here in this.
Yeah. That's a good question. I think not yet, if I have to guess, but I'm guessing. And you know what? We have some of the team in chat. So let's see if we can get that answered in chat. When it pushes the image to ECS, does it use KMS encryption? And Coey Dave says, we have a KMS key, but we don't use it to encrypt the image yet. So,
so by the way, so behind the scenes, Copilot is using CloudFormation.
Right.
So again, it's same defaults, but also they do some other things outside of CloudFormation. They're not exclusive. They do some other really cool stuff.
Yeah, totally. And this team moves fast. Like when you look at the releases and what's been added and in just a matter of weeks, I mean, it's amazing what they're able to do. So, Alex Smasha, keyword yet, absolutely, because I'm sure it'll happen. So hang in there.
And so while we were talking, it asked me if I wanted to deploy an environment. And I said, yes. So I wanted to deploy a test environment. So now what it's doing is the Copilot CLI is building my networking. It's building my ECS cluster, my load balancer, everything I need to make sure that I'm up and running. That was what I was laughing at earlier. Is
Yeah.
I was on Thursday. We have Pavan coming on the show to talk about ECR KMS encrypted ECR repositories, and
Yeah, exactly.
man,
Which is a new feature, so Copilot will certainly be, I'm sure, adding that. But yeah, so if that is an interesting topic to you, by the way, uh, KMS for ECR, then definitely tune in on Thursday.
yes. So what's happening is all of these resources are being built for me. So Copilot is actually, does Copilot talk directly to AWS or the AWS CLI, or is it CloudFormation? So CloudFormation, but it does use SDK to do other things outside of CloudFormation as well. But we do have the actual people who wrote the code in the chat, so I'm sure they'll have something to say to that as well.
Yeah, totally. But if it helps to clarify, Del Boy GG, you could not have the AWS CLI installed and you still use Copilot. You would need to have obviously some credentials set up and that sort of thing, and then have the Copilot CLI installed. But this is a unique CLI that operates independently of the AWS CLI. But what it does do is it reaches out and it talks to CloudFormation for the majority of its work. Then once the infrastructure is set up and everything through CloudFormation, it can make other API calls. Like, for example, when you want to read logs from a service, it's going to talk to the CloudWatch Logs API to get that information for you.
Yep. And so you can see here, it created my cluster, all my networking. Oh, see, there you go. Yeah. It's great to have them here.
Yeah, so Del Boy's trying to force his teams to use the CDK. I just feel like I'm fragmenting my audience too much, which I get that. There's lots of choices. So I think if especially, I don't know what your situation is, but if you're talking to different service teams, I think what I've seen at enterprise levels is when there are a bunch of service teams, different teams are at different levels and different operational experience levels, I would say. And so some of them, would fall into that CDK camp, no problem. But others would want something like Copilot because they want it to just be done for them, and just take care of this. And I just want to focus on my code and what's in my container, and let the CLI just continue to improve as the weeks and weeks go by and features get added and all that stuff. So I think that's possibly one approach you can consider taking. And yeah, U.S. government, most folks are new to cloud, pets versus cattle going on. Yeah, good luck. You have your work cut out for you. But yeah, I think at least you are looking at the right set of tools, and just throw Copilot into the mix as one of the considerations.
Yeah, and listen, I just want to piggyback on that, Brent. A lot of enterprises, I've seen it. There are some teams that are just so advanced that they get everything under the covers, and they want CDK and they want to do more on top of CDK or CloudFormation. Whereas there are others that are coming into this brand new. And when you come into the cloud brand new, it's overwhelming and it's daunting. So by having a tool like Copilot that walks you through and does all the opinionated best practice deployments and building the architecture for you, it's kind of a win-win. And again, if that team grows and they want to just do a whole lot more outside of that, then you have CDK, you have CloudFormation, you have other ways, Terraform, other ways you can do this.
Yep, totally.
And I just want to go back while we were talking. So this is a first time, a one-time deployment here, because it created the test environment. That's what took a few minutes, because again, it's creating all the networking, load balancer, everything that's needed from a resource perspective. Now it's moved on. It's building my Docker image. It pushed it to that container registry. And now what's going to happen is once we get those health checks and we get a healthy response, our front end is going to be up and running. So the next time I deploy, which we'll do after this in just a few minutes, I'm not going to go through building the environment again, like just the one time when you define you want a new environment. So let's see, a lot of good chat in here. I got to tell you, I feel like our chat is busiest with Copilot. I don't know.
I think people like Copilot, and it inspires a lot of discussion.
Yeah. So it's just in the process of deploying. So we're going to let that happen. But again, it was when we talk about that experience, it was interactive, and then it was very hands off. So at this moment, I do not believe there's an option to use a private load balancer. I'm going to leave it to the professionals in chat to answer that question. But I believe that it's not supported yet. There was a question on that. Thank you, Brent.
Gotcha. Yeah. Option to use only private LB. Yeah. We'll see if that gets answered in chat.
Yep. And so while we're waiting, I'm going to go to my ECS cluster. And again, it's deploying 3. Lame. I wanted to deploy 1 and scale up, but my manifest was still there. So that's my bad. Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. Should we?
Yeah,
okay. I'm just reading the chat. There's just so much going on. But yeah,
I'm trying to not distract you with it.
Oh, hey, Mackenzie's here. Hey, Mackenzie.
What?
There's just so many famous people in our chat today.
Nice.
So you can see it's deploying my service. Another thing is it's all serverless Fargate. So it's deployed my task basically with my environment variables that I've defined. Yeah, I really kind of cheated here. In the workshop, I take some extra steps, but that's okay. Okay, so it's done. So my deployment's complete. It gives me my load balancer URL. Now, if I go open my load balancer, let me turn off dark mode so I don't give people seizures here.
Wait, you have dark mode for your browser?
I do, and it's a game changer. My eyes are so thankful for this.
Yeah, I use
Firefox though, so I think there's one for Chrome, I'm sure, but it's called Dark Reader.
Nice. Okay, I'm gonna look.
So here we go. So normally in the workshop we break the application. I realized that when I ran through this, I had all the fixes built in now. So anyways, that's okay. But you can see here, we have our front end service up and running. And we did this by simply saying Copilot init, answering 4 questions or 5 or 3, whatever it was. And it took a few minutes. We have an environment. So I'm literally testing my app live now. Nice. I mean, I can see it in my test environment ready to go.
Yeah, and I guess that's probably a good thing to point out a second time is that this is the test environment. This isn't production yet. So exactly. It's totally fine to mess around here and test things out and see what's going to happen.
Yep. So let's work with the app flag in Copilot for a little bit. So I have my app deployed, and I have one service deployed under my app. Let's actually look at the ECS Workshop application. So you can see all my environments. So as I build environments, they will show up in Copilot under my application. So right now I just have a test environment in this account in this region. But if I could have a production environment in a completely different account in a completely different region, and Copilot I can use to interact with everything.
That's cool.
All environments, all regions, etc. And then my services. So this is pretty much, what you get out of the application view. But the idea is I don't have to leave the CLI. I don't have to go to the console, click around. I can do everything on the command line. So let's look at my service now. So I can list my services, and I can see I have my one service, my front end service. If I'm going to do Copilot service show, it's going to show me all the details for my service. Now there's a couple couple things that are just default. So there's certain tags that get applied, and they'll be prepended with Copilot. So you can see these are the tags for my service, but also I mentioned earlier, it creates a service discovery namespace. So one thing that our front end requires is to talk to our back end services. It talks over service discovery. So it uses Cloud Map for that. So the way it'll work is you'll have your application name .local. So that's going to be your service discovery domain, your namespace there. So that's why you see we have .ecs workshop application name .local. So, and it also you can see here is my endpoint that was created for my front end service. So that's that. So now we've looked at the service. Let's go back here. And so we looked at the application. One thing we didn't look at was the environments. Let's actually check out our environments as well. So I can list my environments. You say I have a test environment. And let's show. And so one thing you may notice is oftentimes it will go to a default. And if there is multiple of something and I don't specifically pass in name as a parameter, as a flag to my command, it's going to give me an option. It'll actually let me select from an interactive menu. But so in this case, again, here's the description of my test environment, my tags for my test environment. So if I want to set default tags for my environments, you can do that as well. You can kind of set your tagging standard per environment. So that's that.
Cool.
Now I want to show the package. So let's show that as well for the service. We want to go back to the service command. So first we're going to do this. So again, I did show earlier. I did Copilot service show for the ECS demo front end service, but I can also run a status. And status is going to show me the last deployment, how many tasks I have actively running, and if they're in a pending state, it'll show me. But it also shows me the actual tasks, what image they're pointing to, and the status as well. So this is where if you're troubleshooting, some sort of a task, you've discovered that there's a problem with task ID, this one, 89327B7. I can actually review logs just for that task, all from the command line. So I could do Copilot service logs just to see all the logs, and by default, it will log to CloudWatch logs. So that's all built in. Again, you don't have to think about logging and metrics. These are all come standard default when you deploy your services through Copilot. So look, I can see all my logs here. I can also follow my logs, so I can get a live tail. And live, it's obviously there's a slight delay from container to CloudWatch logs to here, but it's basically near real time. So this is me getting a live tail of all of my logs. But I don't have, let's see, Copilot. Oh, I do have 4.0. Perfect. So there was just a release of 4.0 for Copilot. And with that, I can actually tail a specific task ID. So I have to Copilot service logs help. And I have to remember, see, I can actually specify now my tasks. So one thing the Copilot team can attest to is when I was building and working through this, I just noticed little things and I opened GitHub issues. I was bothering them in Slack. So I appreciate their patience with me, because obviously it was nonstop from me. So
they must still like you because they're here.
I think so. I hope so. But the whole point was, one of the experiences I was looking for was I wanted to be able to troubleshoot a very specific log, a very specific task, not all the tasks. And this was something that was just added in 4.0. I like to say it's because of me, but truth is they were working on it before I said anything. So
nice.
There's that. So I can just really quickly service actually, let's do this, service status. And then I have a task ID. I wonder, so I could do Copilot. Brent, I'm not looking at the chat, so just tell me what's going on.
Coey Dave says, internally we call that the FA task, the task that's always acting up. Oh, that's funny.
So and here,
Delboy asks real quick, how does Copilot work with pre-existing resources? We can't really create VPC gateways, etc. And you can, when you do Copilot init, you can init into an existing VPC and kind of inherit the ability to provision resources into that. But I don't want you to think that it can import those resources and start to take over their management. When you do that, when you inherit them, you're just kind of provisioning into existing, and what's existing will just stay there configured the way it is, which I think is probably the way you'd want it to be.
Yeah. So you can see here, I was able to drill down to a specific task, and perfect. Yeah. Thank you, Dave.
And I'm going to let the Copilot team answer this one. Is it possible to provide permission boundary to Copilot, especially for IAM role creation? Because yeah, I bet in your lockdown environment, you don't have the ability to create IAM roles.
Yeah, that's a good point. So anyways, you can see I was able to just drill down into a specific task. So with Copilot, I can interact with my services. I can interact directly with my tasks, all from the command line. I don't have to click throughout a console. I stay here. So I write my code, and especially for testing, I'm going to create a CI/CD pipeline in a moment, but especially for testing, if I just want to keep iterating, I can just Copilot service deploy, and I can do it here. It's going to build my image. It's going to deploy it, and that's it. Like, this is how, so people do ask for local testing. We talk about that a lot. And I think with Docker Compose, you can achieve that. But if you want to just test this in a real environment, you can just do it all from the command line, and you'll get that deployed to your environment in minutes. So
cool.
And there you go. So I deployed my updated service. Again, there it is. So perfect. Now, there's actually one thing I noticed. I have no hash, so I could fix that. Okay, so that's it. So we've deployed our front end service now, and we've scaled it. But let's create a pipeline. Okay, so a lot of these things I've already done, but in the workshop, you have to have a GitHub account. You create a personal access token, because right now Copilot works through. The integration is with GitHub at the moment. More integrations with other providers are down on the roadmap, but at this moment, it's just GitHub for the CI/CD pipeline. So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this command, Copilot pipeline init. So, Brent, have you ever created a pipeline?
I did it in Jenkins once, but then you came along and took it right over from me.
It's true. But how was that experience?
It was kind of annoying. There was a lot to do. You had to think through step by step what needed to happen. You had to figure out how to pass along, the right information to the next step. It was not amazing. I kind of hated it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, pipelines are great once they're there, but yes, getting there is oftentimes the hardest part.
Yeah, and especially again I'm not slamming on Jenkins, but I am. Like figuring out what was the language? I forget. What do you write pipeline language in Jenkins?
Groovy.
Groovy, yeah. So like switching your mental thinking over to yet another language, trying to figure out what it is you're trying to do in that language, and so on and so forth. It was just, it left a lot to be desired. So I have to say I didn't enjoy it.
Amen. So look, I'm going to add my Copilot directory. Okay. let's see here. And going through this, so I ran Copilot pipeline in it. It asked me a couple questions. And yes, Leroy Jenkins, great reference. Love that reference. So what it did was it created a secret for me. It stored it in a secret location in Secrets Manager because in order for Code Pipeline to use GitHub as the source, it does need a token to be able to integrate.
Yeah.
So,
and I know let's head off the questions. I know there will be questions. Can we use GitLab? Can we use, code commit, all the, insert your favorite repository here? Not yet. So yeah, hopefully someday, but we have to start somewhere, and we started with GitHub. So that's what it's working against. And Koi Dave says soon. So even better than not yet, but yeah, soon. Awesome.
Okay. So push upstream. Okay, so we're going to go here, and then I need to grab my token. Excuse me. Okay. All right. So I pushed my changes. Now, so let me just walk you through what happened. I ran Copilot pipeline in it. It created a pipeline manifest and a build spec YAML file. Okay. High level, pipeline YAML is just my description of how my pipeline will run, what it looks like, what the formatting is, meaning what the environment is, and so on. And then the build spec actually specifies at build time. So when we build the container, there's a code build is used behind the scenes, and code build looks at what's called the build spec YAML, which is what defines how the build works. Here's the nice thing. I don't have to touch those. But as you add tests, and if you remember last week, we had Nathan Peck on, where he walked through adding integration tests into his pipeline. This is where you would edit this file to add your testing, and that's it.
That's really cool. So it takes care of all of that like cruft that I was talking about, where you have to like write all that stuff yourself. That's pretty nice.
I have to do this, and then so the last thing I have to do is Copilot pipeline update. So I added my YAMLs. So these pipeline configurations, I push them to my GitHub repository. Now I'm running Copilot pipeline update. This is going to create the actual pipeline for me. And once that pipeline's created, it's automatically going to start. And then what happens is now my workflow, I move away from doing things locally, and I start moving into more of a Git workflow, right? Where Git is actually what controls my deployments, not the users. Which once you go to, once you're operating in production, you're doing this in the real world, don't do it from your laptop. Do it in the pipeline and let Git do it.
And we're now calling this GitOps, right? Like,
I don't know.
I think we are. I mean, this has been a thing since you and I worked together at our last startup. And this is exactly what we did. Everything was pushed to Git, and Git was the gateway for everything, for automating everything. And today it has a term, GitOps. And we've had all kinds of, in fact, I think last week we had Weaveworks on, and they were talking about GitOps and EKS and how great it is. And here it is, for ECS. You can totally have everything be driven straight from Git. So
I can get the pipeline status. This is, I gotta say, one of my favorite features here is to have the visualization of my pipeline from the command line. So one thing, Dave and FA, since you're watching, I really would love this, a -- watch flag. And so it just gives me a little watch, and rather than having to do what I'm about to do, but that's okay. And again, there's always workarounds. I want everything in there. And that's why I think by the end of the week, they're going to kill me. So anyways, so you can see my pipeline's running. So yes.
No regrets.
Oh boy,
That's
GT. I love it.
awesome. Awesome.
So anyway, so there's my pipeline. Okay, I deployed an environment, I deployed a pipeline, and I have my container running. My front end service is running in multi-availability zones. So
That's so cool. So you've basically done like two major functions within one CLI, and you haven't had to really reach out and touch the console at all. And you have at least the front end of your application now completely deployed. You have your artifacts stored in ECR. You have redundancy set up. You have a complete test environment built, and you have a pipeline. It's now all automated directly from GitHub. So all you're doing now is committing more code, and that will automatically get deployed out to your test environment. That's amazing.
yep. And so I just wanted to show you, here's that pipeline YAML. Okay, that was automatically created, has the name. And by the way, I can go, this was another feature request I had, is I just want that URL as a part of the command. So I could just click it and go there. But you can see, here's my pipeline. And the truth is, I don't really ever have to go here. But if I just like pretty colors and I like to actually visually see it like this, you can. And here it is.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So William Dampier asks, is this like Amplify for containers? And yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it is. I would have to say, yeah. I use Amplify for things, and I use Copilot for things, and yeah, I would have to say if there was going to be a comparison, this would be a good one. So yeah, and then he says, or like SAM for containers, and again, kind of yeah. This is taking care of setting up all of the back end stuff and arranging things and making all the right connections so that all you're focused on is your code, what's in the container, and you don't have to really think about anything else. And Surreal Chemist wants to know, what if I need a database and some secrets?
That's a great question. So I was just walking through. So Copilot has the concept of add-ons.
Nice.
And so obviously there's going to be the need to create something outside of what Copilot creates. Okay, like a database, for example, you want an RDS instance. Well, in the add-ons directory, so you create this under your, so if you see where I am, there's a Copilot directory and then my actual service name. And then this is where the manifest file lives, as well as the add-ons directory. So in the add-ons directory, I'm actually creating a task role because our services, one of the requirements, because our services don't, they're Fargate version 1.3, which doesn't have region available in the task metadata endpoint yet. So what's happening is we have to actually make some CLI calls to the AWS APIs. So to do that, we need a policy. So you can see here, I'm creating a policy which allows me to run EC2 describe subnets on all resources. And I simply output that policy. And what will happen is Copilot is going to recognize that, and it's going to add this to my task role for me. So I defined, here's my policy that I need outside of what Copilot does, and it's done. So to talk to the example of if I need a database, I would create a database here in CloudFormation, an RDS instance. Right. I would create a policy to allow the access if I wanted to. And then I simply output that policy. So that policy becomes an output. It automatically assigns to my task role. That's it.
Yeah. So custom CloudFormation. And then you still don't have to manage the CloudFormation for all of your main infrastructure. And you're only focused on CloudFormation for that one item, that one database, or the second item, maybe the database plus the policy. So it greatly simplifies, what you have to manage, what you have to maintain yourself. So this is awesome.
Yes. And so the last thing, because I know we're butting up at the end of time.
That's right.
Crazy. Time really moves fast here. I just want to show, I just want to show you. Okay, and this. Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Soon. So not yet. I see. I'm always afraid of like hinting at future features, but if Coey Dave is fine with it, then awesome. Soon, Copilot storage in it, my database. So heck yeah, that's going to be awesome.
Yes, and yeah, that is the nice thing is the roadmap. It's open. It's public. Even when I go ask them behind the scenes, like, hey, give me the down low that no one else knows. They're like, hey, go to the public roadmap, dude. What do you?
Exactly. And here is the roadmap, by the way. Con Paul found it and posted it earlier. GitHub slash AWS slash Copilot CLI projects number 2. That is the public roadmap for this CLI. So if there's something, a feature you want, open an issue. This team is, it's obvious this team is really responsive. Here they are in chat. So they definitely want to hear from you. They want to hear your ideas and your thoughts and how your workflow is, because they want to know more about why you do the things you do the way you do them, so that they can figure out how to bake that into the workflow for this CLI.
Yeah, that song popped in my head. The way you do the thing you do. Sorry. So last thing, again, button up on time here, but this is the manifest file, and I can extend this. So the great thing was the walkthrough when I was building it, the wizard generated this file for me, but now I can actually add to this as I see fit. So someone asked about secrets. Well, if I create a secret, I simply put the secret as an environment variable, and what'll happen is Copilot, because of ECS integration with Secrets Manager and SSM Parameter Store, it's going to automatically expose that as an environment variable for me. I just simply say, here's my secret envar key, and then here's the actual environment variable. I'm sorry, the secret name.
Yeah. So you don't have to like hard code your secret. You just put the location of the secret, and ECS will reach out and snag it for you and drop it in.
Yep. So there you go. And I can obviously, increase the size, change my health check, change the path on the load balancer. I mean, there's a lot I can do here. So environment variables. And then specifically, one last thing is you can actually have overrides based on the environments. So this is a really cool thing is you're not going to just have one environment. You're going to have a test, stage, prod. You may have 100 environments, and you may want to, switch between there. So anyways, tomorrow we're going to deploy the backend services. And with the latest release of Copilot, we just added auto scaling. So we're going to showcase that as well.
Awesome. That's going to be awesome. All right, everyone. Join us back here tomorrow where we finish setting up our services. See you then.
See ya.